so we have a few questions. We'll kind of spark off the topic of discussion. We'll kind of be going over permits, going over oversized driveway and access permits, utilities, and possibly other permits that that they have that they're going to be going over, just as geophysical or any other permits that they'll see. So to start us off, and we'll kind of go from close to the podium up to far. So please describe how your district structures the management of all permit functions, including process between area office, maintenance office, and districts. And we'll start off with driveway and access permits. David?
Driveway and access permits. Good afternoon. Is there anybody here from the FAR district? Raise your hand, anybody. Please send Mr. Costley my regards for canceling out at the last minute. So I guess we're starting on this end, so you're not going to let me warm up, so I'll start on this end talking about driveway permits. We're very fortunate in our district that we do have a director of maintenance and a director of traffic that handles most of the driveway access permits. What we've done in the past here recently is because of the influx of the Eagle Ford Shale traffic into our district, we've kind of relied on our director of traffic to handle most commercial driveway permits. We set up a packet that we provide each company that comes into our district requesting a driveway, commercial driveway. The process starts at the area office where they contact their engineer first. We provide them a packet, and we've gotten to the point where we've gotten certain criteria that we ask up front. It's a form that we provide them. It deals with the ADT, what they're bringing in, what they're proposing, what type of facility it is, the amount of trucks that they estimate are coming in. It's a really good form, but again, the process starts at the area office. They do most of the most of the design on the driveway, the vertical curves and everything. As you approach it, the geo design of it, I guess, the design of the driveway itself. When that is done, it goes up to Danny, and Danny does most of the study on the traffic impact that we're going to be looking into it. The director of traffic, Danny McGee, is the one that signs off on the official commercial driveway permit. There's some things that we've developed in the past that have worked positively for us. A lot of these driveways are coming in on FM roadways. So what we developed as a whole in our Laredo district is we decided to widen the roadways on a lot of these driveway axes. They're widened 4 feet on either side, 250 feet as you approach the driveway itself. That's something that we ask for when we have commercial driveways on FM roadways. Another thing that we see a lot of is sometimes on our U.S. highways, we have large companies coming in. Danny was very successful in the Laredo district, and bringing them in ahead of the ball game and introducing them to the company and what they were going to do, what they're going to be doing. And what we managed to do is we was very successful a couple years ago on a donation agreement type contract on US 83, one of our major thoroughfares, and they were able to come in. I believe the amount of money they donated was close to $2 million. And this was all up through the same process of the driveway commercial permit. And with that, we were able to build deceleration lanes and acceleration lanes, which is what Danny's looking for when it comes to his office at the district. Another successful thing that we've done is every time we get a new driveway permit, they're asking for signs, they're asking for truck signs. What we've done is we managed to lump them into certain sections along our thoroughfares, and we put up large road crossing signs the next 4 or 5 miles. So when they come in, we're not doing a sign for each driveway that comes into play. Some of the issues that we started seeing early on was that some of these land developers would take a 100-acre tract, break it up into 10 acres, and then everybody wanted a driveway. That started happening, so we were able to bring them in, and we were trying to get one driveway per location. A lot of issues that also happened to us was where you had the small farmer that had the one driveway, the oil company would come in and they wanted their own driveway. So you ended up with 2 driveways within a couple of 100 feet of each other. So we brought them in, and we started requesting one driveway per location. Those are some of the success stories that we had. I don't know if I left anything out, Danny, or can you add something? You're not going to help me, are you? Any questions on that? There's a lot of stuff I can talk about. I can go on and on about it. But those are some of the successes that we had early on. But the most important part is bringing them in, giving them that packet with the form of things that we're asking for, so they're all familiar with it. It took a little bit, but they're all familiar with that. So when they approach us, they already know what we're looking for. The process is relatively quick. We started a little bit slow, but we've gotten to the point where it kind of flows very, very fluently between the area office and the district office, and finally the commercial company coming in.
Okay. All right, let me go over to Jeff.
In the Wichita Falls district, we do pretty much like David spoke. We do have a standard operating procedure that addresses driveway permits in the Wichita Falls district. It says who's responsible, and it does have a flow chart, but it does basically for the verbiage revert back to the driveway permit, access driveways for the state highways. We use it. We have a flow chart, and we also have a form that we try to send with that our area offices use. Most of our customers come into the maintenance offices to request the driveways. So our maintenance supervisors are the first line that goes out and gets the information from the customer and meets with them on site to discuss where the location is for the driveway. We do have a form that our maintenance supervisors or if it's an inspector, whoever has been given the task to go out and perform that duty, they can fill out that form, and it gets all the pertinent information on that form that the area engineer is going to need to make a decision as he looks at the access driveway manual, and he looks at whether he's going to approve a driveway or not. So all that information's there. He can use it. They take pictures. We also fill out the form if it's a commercial driveway or if it's oil and gas driveway. We have the form that we use that is filled out and completed stating their intent and their request. We also try to sit here and take pictures to look at our pavement, to look at the impact of what the impact's going to be to our pavement and our asset. And we take all that information, pictures, we bring it back to the area engineer. The area engineer, he works all the details out at his level at the area office. Once he's satisfied and signs off on it, it then comes and it's under the direction of the district maintenance. Director of maintenance, thank you. He will then look it over. If he has any questions, he will refer back to the area engineer. If he don't, then he will sign it and we'll proceed further.
All right, Henry, same question.
Yeah, I think the question started off talking about, it was asking about the structure of how you manage your permits there with the driveway permits. So I'm going to keep with that. I think future questions talk about SOPs, so I'll save that for later. But San Antonio district, it depends on where you're at in the district itself. If you our metro area, we do the maintenance of the driveway permits in-house in our maintenance section, our district maintenance section. But on the outlying counties or outlying area offices and maintenance offices, we allow them to do the permits, driveway permits themselves, whether they're commercial or residential. So they're processing those outside. We don't have to put our hands on that unless they need the help or have something they can't take care of themselves. So when it comes into our section, we have guys that are out in the field inspecting utilities and driveway permits, and they're the ones. We have a guy in the office that he takes the permits basically, and he decides what we're going to do with them. We need to send them to planning to look at if they're commercial type permits that need more planning looked at in an LOC, a letter of conditions, which specifies they're looking, because our planning section knows where all the driveways need to be with respects to ramps and stuff, all these high level planning type things. So they're reviewing that to make sure we're not putting driveways where they don't need to be for your ramps to make it a problem in the future. So once they get that letter of conditions back from the planning department, they're able to submit that to us, and then we go through and we look at that letter of conditions and we decide what they can have and what they're going to put where. So it's a lot easier with the residential because we're just dealing with the little landowners and small town, your residence type driveways, and we're able to do those with just a sketch and some basic information. But there's a lot more information that goes into the commercial ones. So that's basically how we're structured. We have inspectors and we have a person that does their legwork, and we separate it for the area office. They do their own as well.
Okay. All right, let me move on to oversize and weight. So kind of define y'all's process, and we'll start with
Start out.
Henry and kind of work back.
For oversized overweights, we were unfortunate this last year. We lost one of our lady that really did a whole lot of oversized overweight. She took the brunt of it on her shoulders, so we had to do a little catch up and take our backup lady and really train her to do that. And it seems to be something that nobody really wants to do, but it's a necessity that you have to get done. So I really haven't gotten too deep into it, but I can say that we have our person who does utilities and all that. She's also our oversized overweight, so she's having to juggle all these balls at one time. So it's one person that is your lead person that does those oversized overweight permits as they come in, and we have to have a backup, and we have to keep her so in case this lady's out or off, she can fill in for her. So that one lady ultimately have the final say. Unless there's a problem, they come to us and we can figure it out from there and hash it out.
Jeff?
Our oversized and overweight permits in Wichita Falls, they fall under our traffic office. We have an oversized overweight permit coordinator that is our primary. We too have a secondary, and we as well have a third person in the event the two are off. In busy times, they may all three, if they're at work, be working oversized overweight permits. They follow the standards that they're supposed to in the state operating procedure and what is allowed, and that's basically how ours are structured. The coordinator coordinates with our maintenance supervisors and our area engineers if there's questions, and ask for route approval, and that's really how ours is structured.
Okay. David?
In the Laredo district, the oversized overweight falls under the district maintenance office, but I like the idea of having it in traffic, Jeff. That sounds like a good idea. Start looking into that when we get back. But basically, we're set up as per the direction from division. We have a oversized overweight permit coordinator, and we do have a backup. The oversized overweight permit coordinator also doubles as a utility permit coordinator, so she gets hands-on on pretty much all the permits that come through our district, as well as trying to keep me on track with my calendar. She also doubles up as the office manager. But overall, it's the same process. She sits there and she gets her initial request from the DMV, and it goes out to the maintenance supervisors, who's the first person that starts looking at them. And from there, they come up to the area engineer, and they come back to the district office for final approval. Here in the past, we struggled again with the timeliness of those approvals on those permits, and as per direction of division, we've kind of sped that up to within a day or two at the latest. I know in the past we've had some issues with as many permits that were coming through there, but we're on track now. I think we do a pretty good job. Another thing that we have done in our district is she takes a list of the construction projects that are coming up in our area, and it's one of her tasks to get that list and notify the area engineers when they're going to go into construction, so she can go ahead and notify DMV that there's not going to be no oversized overweight loads for a certain period of times. She does this on a quarterly basis, as well as keeping track of the ATR and making sure that the area engineers are keeping up with a highway condition report and notifying us when there's construction or there's a roadway closed due to construction. She does have a little guide that she follows. For the most part, we depend very heavily on the maintenance supervisors, just like every other operation out there. They're the first line of command again, but they're the ones that usually give us a call back on whether permits are approved. Pretty similar to the other three districts, I believe, so pretty straightforward.
All right, so let me go through and kind of lump these two. So let's go through it again with utility permits, see if there's any changes, and then any other additional permits that you guys see within your operations.
As far as utility permits?
Utility permits, maybe some water lines, event permits as well.
Utility permits has been a struggle for us now. Like I mentioned earlier, the oversized overweight permit is also the utility permit coordinator. What we're struggling with now is the influx of the Eagle Ford Shell. I think we went from possibly 250 utility permits per year to above 650, 800 permits a year. She was handling these. Again, the first line, they come in through the office. The UIR system came into line about the time that I became a director of maintenance, which was a great tool for us to utilize. We hadn't quite completely switched over to the paper hard copies that were still coming in. It took us a little bit, but eventually everybody bought onto the UIR system. This was one of the main tasks of the permit coordinator, to make sure you've got these people on board. We've had some issues with it, with the larger companies, again, due to the Eagle Ford and the influx of it. We were taking a little bit along on trying to get utility permits back to the company. So what we did is we set up an SOP. Right now we're running about 2 weeks turnaround from the time that we get a permit. Initially it'll come in, the permit coordinator has 2 days to turn it out to the maintenance supervisor, who in turn has 3 days to get the field inspector to run out on the job site, see if everything is kosher. At that point, the air engineer has 2 days to approve it. At that point, it comes back to the district office, where I've set 2 other individuals, including myself, in this section for final approval of the permits. Overall, in all, we're looking at a 2-week turnaround time that we're trying to stick to. Some success stories that we've had is, through time, you start seeing some of the same players coming for the utility permits. What we've done in our district is we brought in AT&T, which was one of the bigger ones. We've brought them in, and we bring them in, and they kind of operate the way the TxDOT does. There's different districts, so there's different regions within our district. So we were getting utility permits with different information, and they weren't all the same. So we were bringing them in about once a year, telling them exactly how we wanted the permits, what we wanted on them, what we wanted specified, the locations, what we were needing to approve the permit, and it worked out well for us. We've done the same with some of the power companies in our area. Again, they have different regions, and they were submitting different things. So we brought them in, set our expectations that we wanted. We set up a Laredo District specification on utility permits, and it mirrors the tag. It just kind of spells it out more boldly as to the top 10 things that we're looking for, so they know when they submit the permit, it comes in and we already have that information. One of the biggest things for us in the Eagle Ford was traffic, because the amount of truck traffic that we had out there. And we've had this discussion before in South Texas with the director of maintenance when it comes to traffic control and utility permits. Without exclusively telling them exactly what type of traffic control to have, we would bring them in when it was a major utility across IH-35 or U.S. highway, and we bring them in, sit at a table, and then discuss how the work was going to be, proceed. So we would make sure everybody was safe, the traveling public, the company, and making sure that our folks were safe. So that was something that's worked tremendously well for us. They expect it now. They submit a permit to cross Interstate 35 in our counties, and they come in up front and they discuss the traffic control, how they're going to handle it, what they're going to be doing, and provide all the diagrams that we're looking for. Other positive things that come out of it, it's pretty much just educating the customer, bringing them into the table and educate them as to our expectations. It took us a while to get there, but I think we're there now. One other thing on the 10-day thing, if they submit a permit and it goes back to them, the 10 days start again. So sometimes those utility companies, they get online, they know where that permit's at, and they'll be calling you. So we turn it back. As soon as it goes back to them, we got another 10 days before we do the final approval.
Okay. Jeff?
Ricardo, our utility permit coordinator is under TP&D in the Wichita Falls District.
Man, I'm starting to like your district.
It's spread out even, but they take care of the utility permits. It's pretty cut and dried. We use the UIR system. The permit coordinator will get the permit in. He reviews it first to see if anything catches his attention that he needs to send it back from there. If not, he pushes it to the area engineer of the area of the works to be done on or done at, and the area engineer, they will review it. Maintenance supervisor will go out and look if needs to, and then they'll approve it. Now, that's it on our utility permits. On our temporary road closure permits is another permit we deal with. Now, that's handled in the maintenance office, and those requests comes into us from the cities and counties, and we do have a packet or a spreadsheet that we use to make sure we get all the information. We make sure we get the declaration from the city or county if it's for a parade. We make sure that they have insurance on file. We make sure that they give us a map showing where they're wanting it closed. We ask them to provide us what they think their traffic control plan should be. And if they do propose that the police is going to handle their traffic control for them, we ask them for a letter from their police department on official letterhead stating that they will handle traffic control for that road closure. And then it's reviewed, and we talk to the maintenance supervisor. the area engineer, and that's discussed, and if approved, it's signed by the director of operations and then the D. And that's mainly the permits that we handle.
Okay, Henry?
Similar to our driveway permits, we treat them differently depending on whether they're on our rural area and maintenance sections or whether they're in our metro Bexar County area, as to who oversees or who ultimately approves of these our utility permits. And once they come into UIR, they all come to one of two utility coordinators that we have that review them review the requests for correctness for the UAR, and make sure that they're the right depth, whether the offset is correct, whether they have a bunch of different information that we need to be able to construct the permit once it's approved. So those persons, they'll deal directly with the different utility contractor or different utility companies that are putting in for the request and make sure that everything's right. Once that's all right, that's when it splits, and they'll either send to the area office or the maintenance section their specific permits for them to go out and look for their inspectors to look in the field and make sure things look like they could be constructed the way it's built, where they see anything in the field that's going to affect the way this utility line is going to go in. Once they review it, they remark back in the UIR and they send it back to the coordinator. She makes sure everything's tidied up, and then she sends it back to one of the three engineers that are currently overseeing the utility permit approval process, and we have that split up as well. In the metro area, we have 4 inspectors that are out there. We divided the county up into 4 different areas that we have inspectors out there that have their area. So we send those there. She sends those instead of the area office. We send them to the inspectors, and they go out and they're doing the same thing. They're looking for any issues that they can find in the field that may or may not, affect this utility line being able to go in, give their remarks, and if it has to go back and forth to the utility company, that happens as well. Once it's all squared away, then again it comes back to the people who are set up as the engineers who will actually approve the permit. So that's our system, and as a whole, how it's set up for utility permits.
Okay. Now, David and Jeff kind of mentioned some of their SOPs. Let's jump into SOPs real quick and checklists, see what you guys have in summary. So we'll start with you.
Right. The SOPs for driveways, we typically get driveways. Either somebody will call in and say, I'm looking for this driveway to be installed, or they're going to send you an email that they got from somebody and say, I need a driveway, or they may just walk in. And in any case, we like to have a standardized process to get our driveway permits done. So we're trying to get an email address from an individual and a phone number so we can contact them. We have my driveway person that's reviewing the driveways. He'll send a form type email that has basic information, the process. We've got it narrowed down to what you need to do, what the process is. Sends them information. We have checklists that for simple things that you can find. Did you address drainage? You're going to address stabilization. What type of material you're going to be using for this driveway? All those different things you need in a driveway permit and a detailing. And so we send that back to them, and they sketch it up, or they provide our plans, whether it's residential or commercial. And we mentioned already, going through planning if it's a big commercial development. So that's pretty much.
Okay. Jeff, any additional on SOPs, checklists?
As far as checklists, we do have flow charts. It kind of helps with kind of what Henry's saying as far as in regards to, in some areas, we have different people that approve. Obviously, as I've stated, we have utility permits that are handled through TP&D. Our oversized and overweight are handled through the traffic office, and then driveways and use of the right-of-ways by others or temporary road closures come through the maintenance office. So we do use flow charts. We do have some handy worksheets that you may call that our maintenance supervisors and our area engineers can use if needed to help them determine as far as what's needed. Other than that, that's about all I have.
Okay. David, anything else?
Sure, and I'd like to add on a couple of things on the driveway permits. We rely heavily on the area offices and the engineers in the area office to go out and look at the geometrics and the design of the actual driveway. One of the issues that we had in the Eagle Ford was the non-paved driveways where they were tracking up caliche and dirt and whatnot. So we leave that up to the area engineer to specifically specify some type of finished course, asphaltic or seal coat on top of the driveway. The other thing I failed to mention was that at the tail end of every one of these procedures and SOPs that we do have the maintenance office that tracks everything as far as the inspection of the driveway permits. They keep a running log of the permits in our area, when they were put in, and they get it down to pretty much. It's a pretty fine art on that spreadsheet. You can pretty much look at what it was designed, the thickness, the latitude, longitude of the actual driveway and whatnot, and what signage was put up. That's something that they do, as well as the SOP on the utility permits at the tail end of the process. Again, we have a maintenance inspector out there inspecting the utility companies. We love to have one out there all the time. Unfortunately, we just can't do that. But we try our best to make sure that everything is kosher when we finally finalize the installation of the utility company. But as far as SOPs, when it comes to driveway permits, I think we've done a fair job of meeting with most of the companies and up front providing a packet for them and the expectations that we were looking for, so it flows very quickly through the area office and for final approval. As far as the utility permit process, one of the big issues that we had in the Laredo district was that we'd approve a permit and they come in there and they come in with, well, San Antonio's not doing that or FAR's not doing that. So what we've done in the past is met with the South Texas Director of Maintenances, and we meet twice a year, and this is always a hot topic. Maybe someday the maintenance division will be at one of our meetings. Is Michael here? There he is. He promised to be in FAR, so we've yet to see him. But with the leadership from the maintenance division, with the leadership from the maintenance division, what we established is that we got to have some kind of uniformity. And the onset of the utility permit, it was very hard when we were specifying something in Laredo and they go over to San Antonio, they were specifying something else. I think we've met on that topic quite a lot lately, so I think we're pretty much uniform across the state in South Texas. We're all doing the same thing. But as far as SOPs, we do have an SOP on the turnaround time of the permit and what is needed.
Okay. All right, appreciate it. Got a brief amount of time for questions, but if anybody has questions, yes, sir.
Have you guys been successful in getting developers to put in medians? Repeat.
The
The question is if you've been successful,
You know it's terrible.
so I guess the question would be if you've been successful with a developer to put in a median
We-
with your driveway permit.
We have in the past, I mentioned Shell Industries, when they came in there on US 83, it's a major thoroughfare in our district. They were able to put in a left turn lane, an acceleration lane, and I believe a deceleration on 3 driveways. And they provided the money up front and the design for it. So we have been successful. Not a concrete median divider type, but we did have a turn lane put in there.
Anybody else want to?
We've been successful. An example, which is actually a small example, but we've been successful getting commercial driveways and businesses to put in, such as Walmart. Walmart, as far as the signals and far as medians and far as turn lanes, they're always willing to kosher. So we've been successful to some degree.
Anything to add?
We're in the same district.
Yeah,
We're not successful.
we've had a few, but we haven't been real successful ourselves.